My name is Jane. I'm 24 years old and live in California. This happened last summer. My best friend, who I will refer to as Paula, and I organized a trip to Hawaii in July. We both were tired of the city life and needed some rest. We figured Hawaii would be the best place to relax for a while. After we flew there, we quickly went to our hotel and crashed into our beds. It wasn't by any means a spectacular hotel room. We actually picked the second cheapest option, but it felt very cozy. However, there was something about the bathroom that didn't feel right. I didn't think too much about it and decided it had just the stress playing tricks on my mind. It was only 6 p.m. and Paula wanted to go outside. She was excited to try some of the local food and maybe go to a bar or a club and party. Personally, I'm more of an introvert, so I preferred to stay in the hotel, but I ended up going with her anyway. We partied, drank, danced, and had a lot of fun. Paula got quite drunk, whilst I was the one that remained mostly sober. By the time we hit midnight, I suggested it was time to get back to the hotel, but Paula didn't really pay any attention to me as she was too busy making out with a random guy in the club. After insisting for a while and seeing how she didn't care at all, I decided to head back on my own. Looking back at it now, it was a dumb mistake. I arrived in less than 10 minutes. Once there, I felt really sweaty, so I got ready to go into the shower. I grabbed everything and hopped inside. The water was really warm, just how I like it, and felt very relaxing. But after just a few minutes, something didn't feel right. I had a weird sensation that someone was watching me. I reduced the water pressure so I could hear if someone was inside the room. I didn't hear anything. Weird, I thought. I continued showering until I heard a soft tap on the wall behind me. The hairs on my neck stood up. I instinctively turned around. What I saw still haunts me to this day. I saw someone's eye staring at me through a small hole in the wall. I let out a horrifying scream. I immediately jumped out of the shower and put my clothes on, not looking back once. I ran out of my hotel room and onto the main lobby, where I told one of the staff members everything. He helped me calm down and called the police for me. When the cops got to the hotel, they searched my entire room. After only a few minutes, one of the policemen came out and told me that they found no one. However, the hole in the wall led to another bedroom, although apparently no one was registered under that room. The police suggested some homeless creep likely broke in to stare at others. I didn't get any sleep that night, and when my friend Paula finally showed up, I told her all about it. We ended up returning to California the next day and cut short our vacation. I'm just thankful nothing really happened that night, because it could have been much worse.
I was 20 when this happened. I'm a girl from southern Texas. My family has never been very privileged, and money was always low. To pay for college, I went through many different jobs, though I never liked any. On the summer of 2018, I worked as one of the cleaners in a crappy motel. It was an easy and decent paying job, but it became very tedious and repetitive fairly quickly. I worked mostly the late hours, which was a blessing sometimes, since a lot of people were asleep. On one particular night, at around 11 p.m., I was cleaning one of the rooms. Nothing was out of the ordinary. I was just changing the bed sheets and the pillows. Then I noticed the figure of a person standing by the door. I always left the doors open whilst I worked. The feeling of the fresh air coming into the room was unmatched. I turned around and saw a plus-sized man. He was sipping on a beer. He had a torn tank top and a scruffy beard that covered most of his face. He was just standing there staring at me. I've always been pretty skinny and not very tall, so there was no way I could challenge him. "What do you want?" I asked.
You look very pretty.
He replied in a rusty voice. By then I was already more than creeped out. I wanted to leave the room and forget what just happened. I told him I had to go. He then adjusted his position and was now very clearly blocking the door. He was very large, definitely over 6 foot tall and 250 pounds. I was scared he would want to hurt me. I again asked what he wanted. This time his response made me shiver.
I want you.
He said in a deep voice. Now I knew this was no joke. He slowly stepped closer to me. My heart was pounding faster and faster. There was nothing I could do. When he cornered me, he stretched his arm to reach me. He touched my hair with his finger gently. I was so uncomfortable, I could smell his breath. It was foul, as if he hadn't brushed his teeth in months. His now revealed armpit reeked. I gagged. He then leaned his head closer to me like he wanted to kiss me. Luckily, I never found out what his intentions were, because right there and then, I threw up all over him. He was in shock and disgusted. He yelled in anger and frustration. I took the opportunity to run past him and out of the room.
Come back here, you fucking whore. You are a fucking whore.
He yelled as I ran. It didn't seem like he was following me, but still, I continued running until I got to the lobby. Thankfully, the motel manager was there. I explained to him what happened whilst gasping for air. He was shocked. I insisted on calling the police. However, he refused. He claimed it would only scare the guests away. Instead, he went to investigate with some of the staff. I was skeptical, but eventually accepted it. When they returned, they told me they had seen the man leave on his truck. My manager also said that he wasn't registered under any room and wasn't a guest of the motel. They were very understanding with me, and I never again worked during the nights. In fact, I quit my job shortly after, and I'm now better off financially. I'm lucky I vomited all over the man that night. I still get nightmares just from thinking what he was planning to do with me.
My name is Daniel. This occurred last January. I'm a young and fit guy in my early 20s. I was driving over to my grandparents' home to visit them. It's a long drive, a bit over 4 hours. I hadn't seen them in a while now, and missed spending time with them. It was a very stormy night. The roads were mostly empty. It was getting late, and I was getting tired. I consider myself a responsible person, so I decided to stop and search for the nearest motel to get some rest before continuing tomorrow. I found one just 10 minutes away on Google Maps and drove there. The place looked all right, but something about it was off. Maybe it was the lack of cars parked. There was only one. Still, I didn't pay too much attention to it, and walked directly to the lobby. Nobody was there, but all the lights were on, and I could hear some 60s music playing in the background. I saw a bell in the desk, so I rang it. Not even 2 seconds later, a woman comes out from the back. She looked old, maybe late 40s or early 50s. Her hair was dirty and gray. Her nails were very long and looked filthy. Her eyes were wide open, looking directly into my soul. Already I was regretting coming here. She asked in a rusty voice if I wanted to rent a room for the night. I had a bad feeling about the place, but I figured I probably wouldn't find anything better. I asked for a room, and she handed me the keys from a small drawer. It was very cheap, so I couldn't complain. She told me to follow her as she grabbed an umbrella and walked outside. She guided me towards my room, which was the furthest one from the main entrance. I got soaked on the way there. She handed me the keys and gave me a creepy smile. When I entered my room, I got this nauseating feeling. It reeked. The smell was disgusting, as if a human corpse had been rotting there for weeks. I opened the window to let some of the fresh air in. Meanwhile, I walked over to the bathroom to shower. It was a small room. There was a single bed, a tiny bedside table next to it, and a bathroom where hardly more than one person could fit. After I was done showering, I laid in my bed as I heard the sound of the rain pouring outside. I was exhausted and fell asleep almost instantly. I woke up some hours later. I felt really tired. I checked my phone and it marked 3 in the morning. As I slowly came to my senses, I realized I could hear 2 people whispering outside. I peeked through my window, not wanting to be seen, and saw the old woman from the motel lobby talking to a man. I couldn't make out his face since his back was facing me, but I could tell he was big. They were only like 30 or 40 feet away from my room. I had a weird sensation that something wasn't right, but decided to ignore it. I went back to my bed after closing the window since it was getting cold. But only a few seconds later, I saw the silhouette of the man approach my room. I panicked. What could he want? I asked myself as I hid in the bathroom, like the scaredy cat I am. There was an awkward pause filled with silence. I was expecting him to knock, but he didn't. I figured maybe I was being paranoid. But then, I heard the doorknob twist, as if the man was trying to enter my room. Luckily, I had locked the door, which bought me some time. I jumped out of the bathroom and onto my bed to grab my phone. I dialed 911 and informed the police that someone was trying to break into my room. Whilst I was on the call, I took another peek through the window. I could see the dark silhouette of the man grabbing a key from one of his pockets. Without thinking twice, I locked myself in the bathroom, which could only be unlocked from the inside. There, I remained on the call, whilst I could hear how the man entered my room. Once inside, he slowly paced back and forth. I tried to remain as silent as I could, but my heavy breathing was impossible to control. Eventually, I could hear how he walked towards the bathroom door. Then he stopped and knocked on the door gently. I can honestly say that for the first time in my life, I was scared shitless. I wanted to ask him who he was, or what he wanted from me, but as the fear took over my body, I could no longer form words. He must have stood there for a solid 5 minutes, not moving an inch, not making a sound, just standing in front of the bathroom door. I had nowhere to run. But by what I can honestly just describe as a miracle, I heard the man walk away, slowly, as he was being called over by the old lady who I assume was outside. I heard them argue outside quietly. The old lady seemed frustrated, whilst the man was trying to calm her down. Although I couldn't exactly make out what was being said, I slowly unlocked the bathroom door to take a peek at whatever was going on. Then, I saw both of them, a solid 60 feet away, talking. My body was filled with adrenaline as I saw him with a knife in his hand. I figured this would be my only chance to run away, and so I did. I ran away from my room and onto the road, as if I was being chased by a lion. I could hear the man going at full speed behind me, but I didn't look back once. I continued running until I could no longer stand straight. I stopped at a nearby gas station, but by then I was no longer being followed. I sighed and took a deep breath. Eventually the police found me, and I told them everything that happened. They drove me over to my grandparents' house, where I slept that night. The following morning, a police officer came to visit. She told me that the motel manager had been killed, and his body was hidden in the basement. Apparently, the old lady, who I assumed worked there, wasn't registered at the motel, and she likely had something to do with the death of the actual manager. Unfortunately, they never found her or the man she was with that night. I'm just happy I decided to run away when I did. Who knows what would have happened otherwise.